The first time I sent the money, I told myself it was temporary, a bridge across grief, a clean way to close a chapter without arguing over the ashes. $200. Not a fortune, not a ransom, just a number that felt small enough to swallow, month after month, without choking. 5 years later, that same number still ruled my calendar, like a cruel holiday. The 5th of every month wasn't a date anymore, it was a sentence. It meant waking up before my alarm, staring at the ceiling of my little apartment in Chicago, listening to the radiator hiss like it was whispering, "Pay, pay, pay." It meant calculating what I could skip: new shoes for my son, Malik, a doctor visit for myself, a winter coat that actually kept the wind out so that an envelope could stay fat in my purse, like a secret I hated. And it meant climbing those stairs again, 5 floors, no elevator, up into that building that smelled like old water and tired people. I'd been doing it so long that my body knew each step the way you know a scar, by pain memory, by habit, by the way your shoulders tense before you even touch it. My name is Keisha Van. I'm 32, a widow, and the kind of woman people describe as strong when they really mean she had no choice. Malik is 8. He has Marcus's eyes, the soft brown that makes strangers smile at him in grocery store lines, and he has my stubbornness, the kind that makes him practice free throws alone on a cracked court until his hands sting. Marcus, my husband, died 5 years ago, far away in North Dakota, working the oil fields because he wanted to get us ahead. The phrase still makes my throat tighten. Ahead of what? Ahead of bills, ahead of rent, ahead of being the family that always has just enough to survive but never enough to breathe. Marcus told me it would be 1 year. 1 year of sacrifice. 1 year of hard work. Then he'd come back, and we'd start over on clean ground. But you don't get to bargain with fate like it's a landlord. Fate doesn't negotiate. It collects. When Marcus died, his parents acted like grief gave them the right to rewrite the world. They called me before dawn, crying so hard I couldn't understand the words at first. I remember sitting on my kitchen floor with a phone pressed to my ear while Malik slept in the next room, and I remember thinking, absurdly, that the floor tile felt too cold to be part of a real moment. His mother, Viola, kept saying, he's gone, like repeating it could make it less impossible. Then came the urn, delivered by a man with a clipboard who didn't look me in the eye. And then came the accusation, the sharp finger pointed like a knife. "Because of you," Viola said at the funeral, her voice shaking with something that wasn't just grief. "Because you wanted more," he left. That wasn't fair. Marcus had wanted it too, but grief is never fair. Grief is an animal. It bites whoever is closest. The debt came next, dressed up like moral duty. Marcus had taken $12,000 from his parents' retirement savings, every last bit of it, they said, to pay for training, travel, and the first months up there. He promised he'd pay us back, Elijah told me, his hands trembling around a styrofoam cup of coffee in the funeral home hallway. Now he can't. And we're old. What are we supposed to do? Viola didn't ask me to help. She announced what would happen like it was already written in law. $200 a month, she said. 5 years. You're his wife. That's what wives do. You finish what your husband started. I was drowning in my own grief, trying to stay upright for Malik, trying to keep my voice steady so my son wouldn't hear me fall apart. $200 a month sounded like a manageable punishment if it bought peace. If it kept Marcus's parents from turning into enemies. If it meant Malik could still have grandparents in his life, even if they were cold. So I nodded and agreed, and the agreement sank into my life like a hook. The building where Marcus's parents lived was a brick tenement on the south side, older than its wiring, older than its plumbing, older than most of the people who climbed its stairs. It had survived Chicago winters and neighborhood changes, and the kind of quiet decay that doesn't make headlines. Every time I parked my burgundy sedan out front, I felt like I was arriving at the same ugly ritual. That day, the day everything started to crack, I parked in my usual spot by a faded red paint mark on the curb, as if my car had its own assigned grave. I glanced up at the building's windows, rows of dusty blinds, and I felt that familiar unease settle in my chest. 5 floors. No elevator. The stairwell always smelled like bleach and old onions and something damp that never dried. I adjusted my purse, feeling the envelope press against my ribs through the lining. $200. Malik's tutoring money. Malik's basketball fee. Malik's new backpack money. Folded into an obligation that never thanked me. I climbed. On the first floor, the superintendent's radio was blasting gospel so loud it rattled the thin walls. On the second, the scent of burnt beans and frying oil hung in the air. On the third, a couple argued about the electric bill, their voices sharp enough to cut. On the fourth, everything went oddly quiet, like the building itself held its breath. And the fifth, where Viola and Elijah lived, always felt like stepping into a different kind of air. The hallway up there was colder. Not temperature cold, but soul cold. The light flickered like it couldn't decide whether the place deserved to be seen. Their door, apartment 504, was painted a peeling blue that reminded me of bruises. I knocked 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. Silence. I knew they were home. They never went anywhere. Elijah always complained about arthritis. Viola always had a headache or dizziness or some invisible ailment that kept her behind that door like a prisoner who refused release. I knocked again. Mom, Pop, it's Keisha. A full minute passed before I heard the shuffle of slippers. The deadbolt slid back with a sound like old bones cracking. The door opened only a few inches.
Chain still on.
Viola's face appeared in the gap, lined deeper than I remembered, eyes sunken like she hadn't slept in years. Her gaze flicked over my shoulder down the stairs as if she was checking if I'd brought someone. You? She rasped, like my presence was a debt too. Yes, Mom. I brought the money. Give it. Not hello. Not come in. Not how's Malik. Just give it. I forced my mouth into something that might have been a polite smile if my cheeks weren't tight with resentment. I slid the envelope through the gap with both hands, like I was offering something sacred. Viola's hand shot out and snatched it so fast I felt the paper brush my skin. She didn't count it. Didn't look. Just stuffed it into her robe pocket as if she'd practiced that motion in a mirror for years. Malik okay? She asked, still not looking at me, still listening for something behind me. He's good, I said.
He asks about you.
He wants to come visit. This weekend, if you're feeling up to it, I can bring him. No, the word snapped out like a slap. Your father can't handle noise. My head hurts. A child is too much. You finish the payments, and then we'll see. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. Malik had seen his grandparents maybe 4 times in his life. Every visit lasted 15 minutes. Every time, Viola found a reason to end it. Too loud. Too messy. Too much energy. Too many questions. It was like she feared my son's existence would expose something she didn't want touched. Okay, I said softly. Another time. Go on, Viola said, already closing the door. Standing in the draft will get you sick. The door shut. The deadbolt clicked. The chain rattled behind it. And I stood there in the hallway staring at the paint peeling off their door like the building itself was trying to escape. For a moment, I pressed my ear against the metal, not to eavesdrop on secrets, just to listen for normal life. Television noise, a kettle, footsteps, anything. But there was nothing. A silence, so complete it didn't feel like an apartment. It felt like a tomb. The kind of silence that swallows your voice before you even speak. I turned and started down the stairs, and my mind did what it always did. It went to Marcus. It went to the way he had smiled when he promised me this debt would never become my burden. It went to the way his mother had twisted the knife at the funeral. It went to the question that haunted me. If they needed money so badly, why did they treat me like a stranger? Why did they refuse Malik like he was a reminder they couldn't stand? And why, after 5 years, did I still feel like I was paying into a void? By the time I reached the courtyard, sunlight hit me like relief. Kids were shouting near the basketball hoop. Women sat on benches gossiping, snapping beans into plastic bowls. Life was loud and messy down here, the way life should be. I was heading toward my car when a hand caught my wrist, not harsh, but firm enough to stop me. I turned, startled, and saw Miss Hattie. Miss Hattie lived on the first floor and had lived in that building longer than anybody could remember. She was the kind of woman who knew everyone's business because she'd watched everyone grow into their mistakes. She fanned herself with a piece of cardboard, her eyes narrow and sharp as if she was measuring me. "Keisha," she said, "you still doing it?" "Doing what?" I asked, though my stomach already knew. "Sending them money every month." She clicked her tongue. "Child, you got to stop." I blinked. "I have 2 months left. It's almost over." Miss Hattie leaned forward, lowering her voice like the hallway itself might overhear. "You think it's almost over, because that's what they told you. But let me ask you something. You ever wonder why them old folks never go nowhere, but they always got groceries? You ever wonder why that apartment quiet like a church in the day, but at night it ain't?" My skin prickled. "What do you mean?" She looked around, then leaned closer. "I mean, I seen a man going up there.
Late.
1, 2 in the morning. And he walked like," she paused, and her eyes sharpened. "Like your Marcus used to walk. Like he got that little drag in his left foot." The courtyard noise seemed to drain away, leaving only the rush of blood in my ears. "Marcus is dead," I said automatically. "We have his ashes." Miss Hattie's face didn't change. "Baby, I ain't talking about ghosts. I'm talking about somebody in flesh and blood. Somebody got a key. Somebody come and go like it's home." I laughed, but it came out wrong, too thin, too shaky. "Miss Hattie, maybe you saw someone else. A neighbor. A friend." She grabbed my wrist again, tighter this time. "I'm old, not blind. And I ain't crazy. You want proof? You know they put that new camera on the landing between 4th and 5th? Building management did it after them robberies? Go look at that footage. That's all I'm saying. Go look." Then she released me like she'd said her piece and didn't want to hold the danger longer than necessary. She resumed fanning herself, staring at the kids on the court like she hadn't just cracked open my life. I stumbled to my car on legs that didn't feel like mine. The key shook in my hand as I put it in the ignition. My mind tried to slam the door on what she'd said, but it wouldn't close.
A man.
A limp.
A key.
My heart started pounding so hard it hurt. If Marcus was alive, no. That was impossible. I remembered the funeral. The urn. The condolences. The death certificate. The insurance paperwork. The nights I cried into Malik's hair so he wouldn't see my face break. Those things didn't happen over a misunderstanding. People didn't fake death like it was a missing paycheck. And yet the silence behind that door. The way Viola's eyes always checked the stairs. The way she refused Malik like he was a threat. The way she snatched the envelope without counting, like she wasn't worried about money at all, like she was worried about time. I drove to Malik's school with my brain stuck in a loop. Chicago traffic blurred past. Horns, buses, pedestrians, winter-grade streets. None of it felt real. It felt like I was underwater, and the surface was too far away. Malik ran toward me when I arrived, backpack bouncing, cheeks flushed from recess. "Mama," he yelled, grinning. "Coach said I might start next game." I forced a smile. I hugged him so tight he squeaked. "That's my boy," I said, and my voice almost cracked. He climbed into the car and started telling me about his day. Math, a kid who cheated at tag, how he traded half his sandwich for a cookie, and I nodded and answered at the right moments like a robot programmed to be a mother. But inside, something was spreading like ink in water.
Fear.
Suspicion. A sickness that didn't have a name yet. That night, after dinner and homework and Malik finally falling asleep with his basketball tucked beside him like a toy, I sat at my small kitchen table and opened my budget notebook. I stared at the red-circled line I'd drawn years ago. Debt payment, $200. 58 months paid. 2 months left. 12,000 total. Except it wasn't just 12,000. Over the years I'd given extra, holidays, medicine, a winter coat I bought for Elijah when Viola said he was shivering. I'd dropped off groceries, cleaning supplies, little things that added up. It was more like 14,000. $14,000 out of my life, out of Malik's childhood, out of my own future. I opened my phone and scrolled until I found Dante's number. Dante was my cousin, younger than me, the family tech genius who could fix a laptop with one hand and hack a Wi-Fi password with the other. The kind of guy who always laughed like the world was simple because he understood the parts people didn't. He answered on the second ring. "Cuz? You good?" "It's late." "Dante," I whispered, even though Malik was asleep and the walls were thin but not that thin. "I need a favor." He paused. "You sound like you about to tell me you buried a body." I swallowed. "I need you to get me security footage." Silence. Then, "From where?" "My in-laws' building. There's a camera on the landing between the 4th and 5th floors." "You trying to catch somebody stealing packages?" "No," my voice trembled. I need to see who's going up to their door at night." Another pause. I could hear him shift, seriousness settling in. "Keisha, what's going on?" I stared at Marcus's framed photo on my shelf. He was smiling in it, arm around me, eyes warm. The photo looked like a lie now, like a mask. "Please," I said. "Just do it. If you can." Dante sighed. "I know a guy who works for a security company. If it's cloud stored, I might be able to get it. But it's risky." "You sure you want this?" I closed my eyes. I've been sure about everything for 5 years. And I was wrong about at least one thing.
So yeah,
"I'm sure." "All right," he said. "Give me until tomorrow." When I hung up, my hands were shaking so badly I had to press my palms flat to the table. I tried to breathe, slow and deep, like my therapist had taught me back when I could afford therapy. But every breath felt like it caught on something sharp. The next afternoon, Dante texted me an address, a coffee shop tucked off a side street where people went to hide from the world. I left work early, lied to my boss about a dentist appointment, and drove there with my stomach twisted. Dante was already inside, laptop open, hoodie up like he was auditioning for a hacker movie. When he saw me, his joking expression faded. "Keisha," he said quietly. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." "I haven't," I admitted, though it had only been one night. It felt like a week. It felt like 5 years all at once. He turned the laptop toward me. "Okay. I got files from the last 3 months. The system saves a lot." "You said late night? 1 to 3? "Yes." My mouth felt dry. "Look at the 5th and 6th of the month." Dante clicked and scrolled. The screen showed grainy black and white footage from a camera angled up the stairwell. The landing between 4th and 5th looked emptier on camera than it did in real life, like the hallway had been built as a place for secrets to travel. "Here," Dante said. "Last month. 6th. 1:45 a.m. The timestamp glowed in the corner. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Just the empty landing, the shadows. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Then a figure emerged from below, climbing into view. He wore a cap pulled low. A mask covered his face. A bulky jacket swallowed his shape. But his walk, oh God, his walk was a signature. Right foot up, then the left dragging slightly, a small hitch like the leg didn't belong to him anymore. A limp I had seen 1,000 times, from the day Marcus broke his ankle in a motorcycle accident. The figure reached the 5th floor door area, pulled out keys, selected one without hesitation, and unlocked apartment 500 for like he'd done it his whole life. The door opened. The figure slipped inside.
the door closed.
I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. Dante's voice sounded far away. You recognize him?" I pressed a hand over my mouth because if I didn't, a sound would come out that I didn't trust. A sound I might never stop making. "Play it again," I whispered. "Slow." Dante slowed the footage frame by frame. The limp became even clearer. The shoulder dipping slightly with the shift of weight. The ease with the keys. The way the figure didn't hesitate at all, like fear lived everywhere except in him. "That's him," I whispered, and my voice came out like a broken thing. "That's Marcus." Dante stared at me, pale now. "Keisha, are you sure?" "Yes," I said, and I hated the certainty because certainty was what had trapped me for 5 years. "I'm sure." He switched to the previous month. Same time, same figure, same limp, same door. Then 2 months back. Same again. A pattern as steady as my payments. And suddenly the most horrifying thought landed in my mind with the weight of a cinder block. The night after I brought the money, he came. Every time. I wasn't paying his parents. I was paying him. I pushed back from the table so hard the chair scraped. My hands were ice. My stomach rolled. I felt the cafe smells, coffee, sugar, baked bread, turn sickening. Copy it, I said, voice tight. All of it.
Put it on a USB.
And, Dante, listen to me, no one can know. Not my mom. Not your mom. Nobody. Dante swallowed. Keisha, this is criminal. If he faked his death. I know, I snapped, and tears burned my eyes. Just copy it. He did, fingers moving fast, jaw clenched. When he handed me the USB, it felt heavier than plastic. It felt like a weapon. I drove home in a trance. I locked my apartment door, then locked it again, then leaned my forehead against it like the door could hold my life together. I went to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I kept the little box of Marcus's things, his watch, his old hoodie, the letter he wrote me before leaving for North Dakota. My hands shook as I held the hoodie. I pressed it to my face. It didn't smell like him anymore. It smelled like storage and time. Like the past refusing to be touched. My brain replayed everything. Viola's refusal to let me inside. Elijah blocking the door. The way Viola always checked the hallway. The way the apartment felt like a tomb during the day. Because during the day, maybe it wasn't safe for him to be seen. At night, he could move like a shadow. At night, he could come collect his money. And then another thought rose, colder than the first. If Marcus was alive, it meant he had chosen to let Malik and me mourn him. He had chosen to let his son grow up with an empty space where a father should be. He had chosen to let me break my back working overtime, skipping meals, skipping rest, skipping joy, to pay a debt that might not even exist.
Why?
That question tasted like blood. I sat at my kitchen table again. But this time I didn't open my budget notebook. I opened a plain notebook and wrote one word at the top of the page. Plan. If I was going to survive this, I couldn't collapse. I couldn't scream. I couldn't storm up there and confront them with tears and rage and give them a chance to twist the story again. I needed proof that couldn't be talked away. Proof that could stand in a courtroom and not tremble. Step 1. Confirm it's Marcus. Not just looks like. Not just walks like. Something undeniable. Step 2. Figure out why. What kind of man fakes his death? What kind of family helps him? Step 3. Protect Malik. Because whatever this was, it was dangerous. Lies like this don't exist without something behind them. I was writing when a sound froze me. My phone buzzed with a notification. A text message. From a number I didn't recognize. Unknown number. Stop asking questions. My breath stopped. My pen slipped from my fingers and hit the table. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. The words bright and simple and terrifying. My first instinct was to tell myself it was spam, a wrong number, a prank. But my body knew better. My body knew that timing like it knew the stairs. I hadn't told anyone except Dante. And Dante wouldn't do this. Dante would never threaten me. Dante had looked scared for me, not at me. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed. Who is this? Then I deleted it. If I answered, I confirmed the number was active. If I answered, I showed fear. And fear was exactly what someone like this fed on. I turned off my phone and sat there in the sudden silence of my apartment, listening to Malik's soft breathing from the other room. The radiator hissed again, and for the first time it didn't sound like pay. It sounded like run. But I wasn't running. Not anymore. I picked the phone back up, turned it on, and took a screenshot of the message. Then I opened my notebook and wrote a new step under the plan, pressing hard enough to dent the paper. Step 4. Find out who is watching me. And in my mind, like a door unlocking in the dark, a terrible possibility clicked into place. If Marcus was alive and his parents were in on it, then someone else had to be in on it too. Someone had delivered that urn. Someone had handled those documents. Someone had helped make a man disappear and stay hidden. which meant I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with a whole machine built to keep me quiet. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat with the lights off, staring out my window at the street below, watching headlights pass, listening for footsteps in the hallway of my own building, flinching at every creak. Around 1:30 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Unknown number. Last warning. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Then I stood, walked to Malik's room, and watched him sleep. His face was peaceful, innocent, unaware that the world had claws. I leaned down and kissed his forehead. "I'm going to fix this," I whispered. "I promise." When I returned to the kitchen, I didn't sit. I didn't cry. I didn't pray. I opened a drawer and took out the pepper spray I'd bought years ago and never used. I placed it beside the notebook. Then I opened my laptop and began searching for one name, the name that had always bothered me because it sounded too smooth to be real. The man who delivered the urn, the man with the clipboard, the man who didn't look me in the eye. Mr. Tate. I didn't know his first name. I didn't even know if Tate was real. But I knew one thing. If a lie this big existed, there would be fingerprints somewhere. Digital ones. Human ones. Someone had slipped. Someone always slipped. And while I searched, while the screen glowed and Malik slept and my life split into before and after, I realized something that made my stomach turn even harder than the threats. The 5th of the month was coming again. One of my last payments. The payment Marcus was apparently waiting for, which meant I had an opportunity. If he came back to that apartment after I delivered the money, I could be there. I could be ready. I could catch more than a shadow on a camera. I could catch a living man hiding behind his own funeral. I closed my laptop slowly, the plan forming sharper now, dangerous but clear. I picked up my pen again, wrote one final line beneath the steps, and underlined it twice. Next month, I will deliver the envelope my way. And as dawn began to pale the sky outside, I felt fear, yes, but underneath it I felt something stronger, something that had been buried under 5 years of obedience. A quiet, ruthless determination. Because the truth wasn't just going to break my heart. The truth was going to set a trap.